When we talk about department stores, that's one that stood above the rest. The gem of them all, Detroit's own J.L. Hudson's. We were once honored to have this iconic brand at the Somerset Collection, but it was never really about the building. It was about the exceptional experience and the memories that stayed with you long after you left. At the Somerset Collection, everything we do follow these same principles because it's not just about shopping. It's about the connections, the moments, and the memories that last a lifetime. Please enjoy Backstory Hudson's.
Woodward Avenue, between Gratiot and Grand River, an iconic block, hallowed ground in our history. Were you one of the lucky ones who shopped at Hudson's in downtown Detroit? If you close your eyes, what do you remember? Riding the elevator? Picking out a new toy? The tinkling of silverware? Sitting on Santa's lap? There was wonder and magic at Woodward and Gratiot inside Hudson's, the big store. Joseph Lothian Hudson immigrated from England when he was 9 years old. His family moved first to Canada and eventually settled in Ionia, Michigan, where Joseph and his father started a store. It prospered for a few years, but when the Panic of 1873 hit, the store went bankrupt. J.L. Hudson paid his creditors just 60 cents on the dollar, something he never forgot. After a few years, Hudson came to Detroit to manage the Mabley & Company department store. He was so good at it, he decided to set up his own shop again. And so, April 2nd, 1881, on the ground floor of the Detroit Opera House, Hudson's opened its doors.
His specialty, the business that he knew the best, was men's and boys' clothing. So it was primarily a men's and boys' clothing store at the beginning. But he got into a partnership with a fellow named Symington, who sold rugs and draperies. And as Hudson's grew and moved to several different locations, they added those things to the mix.
The store's success outgrew the Opera House. He moved to the west side of Woodward Avenue, inside a space better known in later years as Sanders Confectionery. Business was booming, but Hudson still remembered shortchanging the folks he owed money to years before. So he did something remarkable, something he was under no obligation to do.
He kept all the records, and he paid them back with interest. And you'd think this was a kind thing that he did, that he was able to get off his own chest the fact that he felt he cheated people. But it turned out to be the best thing for business, because in the Burton Historical Collection here in Detroit, there are letters from banks, from wholesalers, the ones that he sent the money back to, that said, anytime you want to do business with us, just let us know. We'll be there in a second because you're an extraordinary businessman. Nobody did what you did.
10 years after his original Detroit store opened, Hudson built his first freestanding building on Farmer Street, 8 stories tall. Enough room for clothing, but also housewares and furniture, an observation deck on top, and for the first time, food, including chicken pot pies.
J.L. Hudson was a bachelor. He was very, very much a teetotaler. He was against alcohol and pubs. He thought they were a scourge on society. And he did become the real philanthropist of Detroit. He built the first YMCA here. He purchased the property where the Michigan State Fair was and sold that back to Michigan for $1. He essentially started the Chamber of Commerce. Just a remarkable rags to riches kind of story. And it shows you in those days what just the thinking and the perseverance of one man could do.
Hudson invested in a car company bearing his name. He added extensions onto his flagship store, its footprint growing to keep pace with demand. In 1912, despite feeling unwell, J.L. Hudson traveled to England, the country of his birth. It was there that he passed away at 66 years old. Hudson had no children, But his 4 nephews lived and worked closely with him for years, and they took over the family business. Richard, James, Joseph, and Oscar Weber oversaw innovations like the more affordable basement store, which opened in 1915.
These 4 brothers that were his nephews really made Hudson's that big store that we know. It was starting to be built on Woodward Avenue, but come 1925, all the way up to 1928, they built all those big, the tower that was 27 stories tall.
Plot by plot, Hudson's acquired properties along Woodward Avenue. And finally, in 1946, the big store occupied the entire block between Woodward and Farmer, Grand River, and Gratiot.
Downtown Hudson's, of course, was the tallest department store ever constructed in the world. 32 levels, which included, 4 basements, several half floors, and several mezzanines. There were 51 passenger elevators, 17 freight elevators. One of the large freight elevators facing the downtown library, you could actually back a semi into. A lot of folks still remember the revolving doors going from the Woodward Avenue building to the Farmer Street building. And you had to be careful as you're crossing that alley in case there were trucks coming through. The 4th basement, there was a large incinerator. Delivery was also in the 4th basement. 3rd basement was the cash tube room for the pneumatic tube system. There was also a DTE substation. There were actually 3 substations within the building itself that generated enough electricity to light up a city of about 25,000 people. Most people will remember the children's floor, which was the 4th floor, and anything and everything for kids was on that floor. And you had brass drinking fountains on all of the floors, too. Now, the brass drinking fountains on the 4th floor, of course, were scaled smaller than on the other floors, especially for the kids. An art gallery on the 7th floor that even sold Picassos. Furriers, of course, today, we wouldn't think of somebody buying a fur coat. Of course, a lot of people remember the 12th floor because that's where, the real Santa was. And, of course, the auditorium. 13, of course, the fine dining rooms. In the early years, right on up through the late 50s, there were actually 3 public dining rooms on the 13th floor. There was the Pine Room, the Georgian Room, and also the Early American Room. In 1959, all 3 merged to become the Riverview Room. The store had a hospital. This was on the 14th floor on the Gratiot end, right next to the employee cafeteria. And there were nurses, there was a dental lab. Any elevator operators were instructed if anyone was sick or really needed to see somebody, they would immediately go express from whatever floor up to 14. 20th floor roof is where they used to grow trees and shrubs and flowers for the garden shop that was on the 12th floor. 5,000 windows in the building, 50 display windows initially on Woodward, Gratiot, Grand River, and Farmer, and for a number of years changed weekly. There were over 700 fitting rooms, which was a world record for any store.
J.L. Hudson's grandnephew Joseph Lothian Hudson Jr. became president in 1961, bringing with him the now iconic dark green branding with classic fonts. 8 years later, he guided the merger with another department store behemoth in Minneapolis, creating the Dayton Hudson Corporation, which later became Target. Hudson's also lives on through the philanthropic investments of the Hudson Weber Foundation, established by members of the family nearly 100 years ago.
They began the Hudson Weber Foundation, which is still with us today, which doles out millions of dollars to nonprofits, particularly the arts, children's organizations, women's organizations. Just about every single nonprofit in town has been touched in some manner by the company or the Hudson Weber Foundation, whether it's the DIA, the DSO, the opera company, you name it. Everybody's been touched in some manner.
J.L. Hudson's spirit of generosity still transforming Detroit 150 years after he opened that tiny shop in the Opera House. What a legacy.
So the highlight of my days as a young girl was riding the bus downtown to go to Hudson's with my granny. So the one day we're in Hudson's and we're at the makeup counter, and I hear a commotion to the side. So I slipped away and I went around the counter and I looked up and I couldn't believe it was Sophia Loren. I was mesmerized by her beauty. My grandmother's jaw fell to the floor and she stared at Sophia Loren. And I just kind of backed away. They had a little nice conversation. After that, we went to lunch. It was a beautiful day at Hudson's.
Ask what made Hudson special, and you'll hear memories of the fine quality merchandise, the excellent customer service, displays so dazzling it was worthwhile just to go window shopping, and the variety.
There were so many different types of departments, too, that you would not find in a department store today. For many years, you went to Hudson's for everything, not only clothing, but toys. This is before there was Toys R Us. Appliances, you would go there for, refrigerators and stoves before there was a Best Buy. And for many years, there'd actually be refrigerator shows, show windows with fridges and stuff. Pets, you would go to Hudson's, for parakeets and gerbils and things like that. Today in retailing, it's all about square footage. Every square foot has got to produce income. Back then, you had all of this space. You could have displays. And of course, displays were changed very often, whether it was mannequins or elaborate display. I remember we used to have these huge displays for the ski shop, with fake snow and trees and all that sort of thing. You never see anything like that today.
The bookshop was just the best. It was the biggest bookshop in Detroit. If you go to other cities, they might have big stores that were related to that city that were the best bookstore in the city. To us, it was Hudson's. Have a whole floor full of books essentially on the mezzanine. Who could have a selection like that? And you knew even if they didn't have it, they would get it for you.
And of course, there were the clothes. Multiple floors filled with constantly changing boutiques that catered to individual styles and price points.
People always come up to me, too, that I was a fashionette. The store always had, different advisory boards for teens, and they did fashion shows, not only in the store, but they also went out to high schools and colleges to do shows as well. If they participated in that, they received these travel case that you could put clothes into, and it had fashionettes and the Hudson's logo on it.
The fourth floor was dedicated almost exclusively to children.
Kids have memories of shopping for shoes. They had a machine that you'd step in it and it would actually x-ray your feet, and you could see the bones of your feet until they found out that there was a little too much radiation in that, and those were taken away. And you just had the guy measured your shoe with an apparatus. They loved, on the fourth floor, they had what was called the ladies' lounge. And so in the wintertime, we'd come and we'd wear all of our coats, but we couldn't walk around a 10-floor store with heavy winter coats on, but they had lockers up there. You could put your coats for free in a locker, and they had a snack bar, and they had a place where you could sit down. If you wanted to lay down on a couch, you could do that. They had desks stocked with stationery that said from the J.L. Hudson Company that you could write a letter and mail it because there was a post office, shoe repair, watch repair, all these different services around that lounge. And it was a place to kind of call home while you were doing your shopping trip.
Men shopped on the second floor for everything from business suits to casual clothes, and everyone worked up in appetite.
They had a variety of restaurants at a variety of different levels where people could stop and eat. So there was a snack bar in the basement that was kind of actually nice. So at one time it was just what they would call a fountain, where you serpentine counter and people would sit on stools at that, and they could order sandwiches, ice cream, whatever. On the mezzanine, there was a dining room that was later operated more like a cafeteria, but it looked right over the Farmer Street side of the store. And many people have that memory of wanting to try to sit as close to the edge as they could so they could watch what was going on below, because people told me it was like a beehive. that people, going counter to counter, walking around shopping, looking at merchandise, salespeople. But the really nice restaurants are all on the 13th floor. The Historical Society has examples of menus, and I can tell you that we don't eat tongue and liver as much. I don't think nowadays you don't see that on a menu so much. But those were popular things of the day.
Of all the memorable menu items, one is forever imitated, often replicated, so synonymous with the city of Detroit, it's actually shocking the recipe originated somewhere else.
Certainly the most famous is the Maurice salad. The Maurice salad, as far as I can tell, didn't show up here until early 60s, late 50s, early 60s. But it can go back to the 20s and 30s in Pittsburgh. Everybody in Detroit thinks that the Maurice salad is theirs. Everybody in Pittsburgh thinks their Maurice salad is there. And then when we came to Detroit, it became the Maurice salad that we knew, that we all know. And you can get it all over town here at varying degrees of accuracy. But if you want to be really accurate about it, it's shredded lettuce, julienne Swiss cheese, and ham and chicken. Now, some people put turkey, but the original recipe was chicken, like sliced roasted chicken. And then over that goes a dressing that is made with mayonnaise, eggs, onion, and then it would be garnished with finely chopped sweet gherkins and 2 olives. In the traditional days, it was served with a really nice crispy toasted roll. Later on, they served muffins also. Even the recipe says 2 olives, never 3, not 1, but 2 green olives garnishing. The second, probably most popular thing was a chicken pie, which you want to say chicken pot pie, but the traditional Hudson's chicken pie was more like an English pie. So it was essentially just a pastry like a pot pie, but inside was only chicken and chicken gravy. People liked their breads. They had their own bakery, so they had a cheese bread that was popular. People tell me that they would have a shrimp salad sandwich in a croissant or something like that.
Some of the other menu items that people fondly remember, Mandarin chicken salad, also Sanders hot fudge cream puff sundae. There were also special sundaes for kids through the years.
One thing that a lot of kids remember is that they had these clown sundaes. Some of them, I think you could have it in half a cantaloupe, but the cantaloupe was sliced as if it was a gear, serrated, and the ice cream would go in the center of that, and then they would put an ice cream cone. So that cantaloupe looked like the collar of a clown's outfit. And they used little candied fruit or licorice to make the face on the clown.
Favorite thing as a kid would have been a Maurice salad and a Mickey Mouse or a clown sundae. And you had to be good to get one of those. When you were with Grandma, you had to be really good. The Mickey Mouse sundae was a scoop of vanilla ice cream with 2 chocolate waffles-like cookies for their ears and a nose, cherry, and like meringue around the bottom. And then the clown was meringue in a vanilla cone and a vanilla scoop of ice cream, and an ice cream cone is his hat. And they were both really interesting to have. That was the thrill of the day for me.
I started going to Hudson's in the 1960s with my parents. I think about once a week, actually. They used to like to have dinner at the restaurant on the 13th floor. But the overwhelming memory that I formed of that store was its glorious 56 operator-driven elevators. There was no building I've ever seen like that before or since that had such an emphasis on the elevators. When we would eat at the 13th floor restaurant, the restaurant was across a hallway from the elevators. So I would always ask my parents if I could sit on the side of the table that let me face the elevators, which ironically here we're sitting at my dining room table. And yes, it's possible to sit and face the elevator here still. Of course, Hudson's had 14 floors of retail space, so you needed a way to get around the building, and there were a lot of people there, so that's why you needed all those elevators. They were separated into different purpose banks, some of which serviced certain floors, some of which were like express to the restaurant. That was my memory, was all these glorious, beautiful elevators driven by these professional ladies who were ambassadors for the store. So when that store announced it was going to close, that's when I started getting worried that these beautiful art objects were going to be lost to history.
None of the officials will say just when, but Hudson's is going to close its doors forever, perhaps next Sunday or the Sunday after that.
I had written Hudson's and said, would it be possible for me to rescue an elevator, remove it from the building? And I received a letter in response from the director of buildings for Hudson's. And the letter said, this is a stupid idea. You'll never get it to meet code again. Just put that dream away. It's not going to happen. But I didn't put the dream away. Now, meanwhile, the building was sold to a succession of investors who owned it, and none of whom really did anything with the building. So I wrote each of those investors. There was actually an open house. There was a flea market that was held on a Black Friday, and I went down there and I met the current owner of the building, and I begged him as I begged the previous ones. And again, he said, get lost, that's a stupid idea, it's not gonna happen, even though he was doing nothing with the building. Then one day I picked up a newspaper and there was a headline saying that the city of Detroit was going to repossess this building for unpaid property taxes. So I called them up and said, look, you're going to lose the building. You can't pay these property taxes, otherwise you would have paid them now. They're going to take the building back, they're going to tear it down, and all these elevators are going to be just lost to history. Let me have an elevator. So the response at that point was, all right, you can have as many as you want. We'll give you a set of keys to the building. You have 30 days. So I immediately got to work. We removed 2 elevators. I removed one that was very ornate, which is the one you see behind me. This was the original elaborate 1920s style of decoration. About half of the elevators had been modernized to a 1950s kind of fluorescent light standard. So I took one of those as well, and that's actually in storage here downstairs in my house in pieces and parts, and ready to be sold to somebody crazy enough to take on this project. So I took the 2 and I put them in storage, and there they sat. This was 95 that I did this. So they sat and sat and sat. I was paying rent on a storage locker. They were kind of out of sight, out of mind. Well, then my wife and I had come to the point where we needed to build or buy a new house. And my wife said, stop paying rent on this storage locker, build a house around the elevator. And so we did. We got an architect to work with us to build this house around the elevator, because normally an elevator is built to fit the space for it. Here we reversed that. We built the house to fit the space required by this elevator. We had to work with the state of Michigan, of course, because they have building codes, and that was a whole nother set of challenges. An inspector from the state of Michigan told us what we could and could not do, but we found an elevator contractor, a brilliant, brilliant man by the name of Opie Stark, who is now the co-owner of Lardner Elevator, and he figured out how to reverse engineer all this antique equipment and make it work again. So here we are, it all works. I have an air compressor in the garage, and you'll hear a very distinctive sound. Anybody who remembers J.L. Hudson's will remember this distinctive hissing sound that was caused by this mechanism as the doors opened and closed. So we have that. That works. You will notice the walnut paneling here. The walnut paneling came from the second floor men's department. Every elevator there was surrounded by this paneling. So I figured when we took the elevators out of the building, we need to take some of this paneling to give it the original look. Paneling has these display windows in it, which had original ads and floor directories in. So I found some original ads that I blew up and put in here. And as for the floor directory, we found an original floor directory that was in very faded shape, but a graphic artist cloned it. And so it's the original directory. You couldn't tell me it wasn't original, but it's not yellowed. It's in good shape and can be reprinted as needed. I want to point out the dial pointer. These are very unique floor indicators in that not only do they indicate what floor the cab is on, but when the cab arrives at this floor, a backlight comes on for a moment to indicate that the elevator is here. So the call buttons are beautifully crafted items that were all throughout the store. Obviously, every floor was crowded with these call buttons. What amazes me is the beauty of the machining and how these letters are carved into it when you think that that was all done by hand, that there were no computer-controlled machine tools back in the day. All right, next we can look inside the cab. So this cab was one of the most ornate types of cabs. So it had a full walnut paneled back. It had brass trim around the edges. It has a brass fan, and it has this metallic ceiling. All of this was quite corroded when I took it out of the building, but they have refurbished it back so it looks brand new. This is an old City of Detroit license for the elevator to operate. So we have the original serial number for this elevator when it was at Hudson's. So to take a ride, this is a sound that many old-time Detroiters will be very familiar with, the pneumatic door sound, which you hear a hissing sound and then you hear the slam as the doors close. Now, trivia question, what's different from the original Hudson's installation? Answer is, there used to be brass gates on the inside of the cab. The state of Michigan would not allow us to put those here for safety reasons. So we put another set of glass doors that used to be on the outside, we put them on the inside. Aesthetically, I think the level of artistry in the woodwork and in the brass decorations is unparalleled, especially when you think that all this was designed by hand. They didn't have computer CAD tools back in the day. They didn't have computerized machine tools to make these parts. All this stuff was designed and manufactured by hand with care that you just don't see nowadays. So I think on an art object level, it's really something to behold. When you walk into the cab, it's like walking back into the 1920s. On a mechanical basis, it has so many things to it that modern elevators don't have. For example, inside the cab, there's a tree of lights which represented the calls. If somebody wanted to travel on an elevator, they'd press an up or down button in the hall, and that would turn on a light in the cab telling the operator, pick up somebody on the 7th floor who wants to go down. So all that works. The up and down buttons trigger the lights in the cab here, so you can see that working. On the lower level, there's some very distinctive hall lantern that it has an up and down globe that light up to show the car arriving. Anybody who knows Hudson's will recognize those globes. And then of course, the manual control. These elevators were built before there were computerized dispatching systems, so there's a wheel control that's formally called a car switch. The operator would turn it in one direction to make the car go up, turn it the other direction to make the car go down. That works as well. I think people admire the persistence, if nothing else, because it was a combination of finding the right talent to do this, but getting the permission to do it, both to remove it in the first place and to have it rebuilt and still somehow meet modern codes. When I removed all this, the wood was in bad shape, the brass was all tarnished. It wasn't very pretty, but they refurbished all of this to like-new conditions. So I'm very proud of the team we assembled to do this.
Hudson's was Detroit's ultimate shopping destination. Its operation so massive and intricate, it was often compared to a bustling small town. And to keep everything in motion, Hudson's needed people, lots of them.
If you worked at the store, yes, you were a Hudsonian, and the in-house magazine was also called the Hudsonian. And the Hudsonian was published from the teens all the way up into the 80s. And initially, it came out every month, and then it became a quarterly. The only time it was not published was during the war years.
Even in the early days, being a Hudsonian came with perks. Just before he died in 1912, J.L. Hudson renovated a large home he owned in Walkerville, Ontario, so it could serve as a summer cottage for women who worked at Hudson's. They could stay there free of charge for 2 weeks of peaceful relaxation along the Detroit River.
At Christmas time, the store would hire an additional 5,000 people. So there were 15,000 people working in the building. Typically during a normal week, the rest of the year, about 10,000 people working in the downtown building. Now that would include sales associates as well as buyers and, accounts payable and other departments like that, to keep the company going.
Most of the careers Hudsonians had back then still exist today, but some of the jobs most essential for efficiency in earlier decades are now lost to a bygone time.
A switchboard operator would be a telephone operator. You would have an enormous board, and then you would have all of these wires come out. And there's a desk in front of this large board, and you would punch in every time a call came in, which is why you'd have 25 to 35 women working that board because of the number of incoming calls. The switchboard was located on the 20th floor, and at one time, it was the largest switchboard outside of the Pentagon in terms of the number of operators running the board and also the number of incoming calls each day. The pneumatic tube system was located in the third basement, and this is where there were 780 tubes that converged into that third basement. Now, these reached out to all of the selling floors, and there were 50 women for many years in that third basement that handled all of these tubes, all of the cash coming in through those tubes, and all of the paperwork coming into those tubes too. Because remember, Hudson's was one of the first stores in the country to offer a hardened coin, which was like a charged coin, with you were assigned a number, and the number was engraved onto that coin. It was like an early charge card. The elevator department, in its peak, employed 125 people. Now you had elevator starters, which were men who came in early to inspect all of the cars, make sure they were clean, make sure the motors were oiled, everything worked properly before they turned the elevators over to the hostesses, which was an all-female staff. And when you started as an elevator hostess, and you received a little booklet called Hudson's Elevator Phraseology.
The elevator operators were trained to know what was on every floor, and they could answer a question. Even my understanding is that the elevator operators were actually better paid than the salespeople because they had to carry all that knowledge with them. And it was pretty much a tradition in Hudson's, or an understanding among customers, that when families would come shopping, they would tell their kids, if you get lost, go find an elevator operator. She'll take care of you. And they had a little fold-down stool that they could sit on, and then they'd go, third floor, silver galleries, linens, fourth floor, children's wear toys. And they'd have to announce all that stuff so people know.
The 14th floor and above was mostly the domain of Hudsonians, an employee lounge near the employee cafeteria, an employee medical center. There were stock rooms, work rooms, storage rooms, office space for so many departments: accounting, purchasing, public relations, maintenance, and of course, customer service training.
At Hudson's, they had a philosophy that these employees were their ambassadors.
Knowledge of merchandise, too, was very important. Today, everything is self-serve. And we go online to learn about something. We go online to look at a video on how to put something together. Whereas before, if you were going to Hudson's, the sales associates were taught anything and everything about that product, whether it was something that had to be put together, how it was supposed to be washed, how it was supposed to be folded.
That level of service and attention to detail remains unmatched in the memories of so many Hudson's customers, proving it truly was the people who made the big store unforgettable.
growing up, and when I got engaged, it was during the Vietnam War, and my fiance at the time got drafted. And so we had been planning to get married, but we didn't because he got drafted. So then all of a sudden he got orders and said, well, we can still get married. So now we're going to plan a wedding in 3 weeks. And the only place that you could go to find a wedding dress was at Hudson's. And so I went downtown to Hudson's, and we planned a $250 per person wedding in 3 weeks' time. And they had what they called sample dresses. So you could go in there, unlike the brides today. You picked something that was hanging on the rack, and it was so much fun. And I loved my dress, and it was like $100. So that was wonderful. And it worked just like all the brides today, but we had a wonderful wedding. It was a brocade, and I told the ladies, and I had 3 ladies waiting on me. That was the best part. And then they kept bringing things out, and they said, we can make this work. We'll get you a dress. Do not worry. I mean, the service was impeccable.
The downtown Hudson's has been gone for decades, but there is a place where remaining memories are more than visceral. They're physical.
Well, yeah, we can come down this way, and actually right here, right off the bat, we have some directional signage from the building.
The Detroit Historical Society's Collection Resource Center houses hundreds of tangible remnants from the big store.
A lot of it is just donated from individual people. I'd say 99% of it is donated from individuals who just either collected it themselves and hung on to it for a little while and then donated it to us, which is pretty amazing. I mean, there's close to 800 artifacts that are Hudson's related, and so you think, that was important enough to somebody to hold on to for a while and then go through the process to donate it to the museum. So right around the corner here are a couple of really interesting pieces. The one is the drinking fountain, and actually we have a couple examples of these drinking fountains, these just really beautiful kind of Art Deco looking drinking fountains that were scattered throughout the building. I don't know, people just really identify with these, and they stick in people's brains for whatever reason. One of the interesting things about these is that we also had donated the smaller version down here, which is a child's drinking fountain. And it's interesting because the child's drinking fountain is exactly the same as the adult size. It's just kind of cut in half, and they were mounted a little bit lower so kids could get at them. Another really interesting piece is this big brass sign that is really heavy and really grand in and of itself that says J.L. Hudson's Company on the front there, and that was right outside the main doors on Woodward Avenue there. One of the places the collection is really strong is this directional signage, kind of pieces from the building of Gratiot and Monroe Aves here, pointing people to the entrances and exits. A couple of these store directories that go through and list out by floor and by section of the floor, where things are located. Your gift wrapping, your bird cages and supplies, everything you might need are right there. When you step off the elevator, you can see exactly where you need to go. One of the other things I wanted to point out was all of this material from the elevators. That seems to stick in people's minds for whatever reason too about the Hudson's building is, the experience of going up and down the elevators, and particularly the elevator operators. We live in a day and age now where you just press a button and go where you need to go. But of course, one of the memorable things about Hudson's was that there was people in the elevators taking you up and down. And so we have the piece of equipment that would actually, move the elevator up and down. We have the call buttons here. One of these elevator floor indicators that show the 3 basement floors all the way up to the 19th floor on the roof. And then also this, small, and you might walk right past it, but it's the wooden seat that the elevator operator would sit on, which is, again, just a glimpse of that side of the people who worked at the store instead of just the people who went there to shop and enjoy it. A couple other architectural pieces, this piece of copper frieze off the awning on the Woodward side of the building. This decorative baluster is off of a railing And we think it came off of one of the mezzanine sections. There's some photos that show, people walking in the main floor, and up above is this kind of decorative mezzanine balcony. Light fixtures, and then this pneumatic tubing system that would send things, to the credit office, back to the sales floor. Is just really interesting. You see a bit of the mechanical side of the building as well. And actually, down at the end of this aisle is something pretty interesting too. And it's this jacket right here. It's from the Thanksgiving Day Parade. Santa in the Hudson's Thanksgiving Day Parade wore this suit in the 1970s, and the coat is in fantastic condition. It's the coat, it's the belt here, and even Santa's hat up on top, and it's pretty significant. The Santa, of course, is the focus of the Thanksgiving Day Parade, and you think of all the people watching at home and certainly in person. This was the centerpiece of the parade, moving down Woodward Avenue. We can head over to another aisle if we want to see some more stuff. Yeah, and right over here are a couple pieces too. We have a lot of clothing that was sold from Hudson's. Of course, they had their own special label, and they made hats and shoes and all kinds of other things that were exclusive to Hudson's, ties, that sort of thing. Hudson's even made military uniforms during World War II. You'll see military hats and jackets that were, with the label inside, made by the Hudson's company. So these are a couple uniforms worn by employees from Hudson's. This one would have been worn by somebody in the beauty parlor. And this one here, still on the rack, is a Hudson's cafeteria worker smock. Of course, Hudson's had the beauty parlor. They had multiple restaurants on different floors, and not like today. There was certainly uniforms for every different job, and all of that spelled out in the different handbooks and everything we have in the collection as well. But these are really interesting pieces to have to show that experience of working in the building, not just visiting the building and shopping in the building. There were the shopping bags, from the 1990s further up the way there. There's also all kinds of boxes. These are a lot of hat boxes and shoe boxes. This is one of these store directories. It's a fairly substantial book, but it lists every person in the building at a certain point, separated out by department. And this just kind of in and of itself tells you how big of an operation it was, that it had to have its own, city phone book, essentially, with all these different departments, all of these thousands of names in it, and different phone numbers. Some more name tags here. We got a couple different versions of credit cards over the years, which is interesting. The different designs and shapes, and even get down to these little tag credit cards. All kinds of stuff. Rubber stamps, property of the J.L. Hudson Company. I have a commemorative medallion for one of the store anniversaries. That's another interesting thing, is Hudson's was always very publicly supportive of the history of Detroit. They leaned into that a lot on their anniversary sales to take the opportunity to say, oh, Hudson's has been here 75 years or 35 years. And actually the first historical marker program in the city in 1926 was sponsored by Hudson's as part of their anniversary sale. All right, so this is our Hudson's delivery wagon. It's probably the largest artifact we have related to Hudson's. Even though it looks exactly the way it would have, it's actually a replica. So on their 75th anniversary in 1956, Hudson's went around by horse and wagon and delivered all of their orders that were made on that day, on that special anniversary day, using a horse and wagon, the way they would have their very first year in 1881. So this, not quite proprietary, but at least signature, Hudson's green here. Was a big, obviously it created a presence going down the road. And, in 1956, you're well beyond, of course, horse and buggy at that point. So seeing a horse and a wagon go down the street would have certainly caught your attention and drawn interest to Hudson's 75th anniversary sale. So yeah, over the last several years, we've put together an exhibit at the end of the year during the holiday season about Hudson's, and we've been calling it Hudson's Holidays. And it's focused on, different aspects of the company's history, but always focuses in on what they did during the holiday season, because that was such a big part of their identity. Objects themselves, scratch a different itch than a photo would. You think of, we've all seen a picture of the Mona Lisa, even if you've never seen the Mona Lisa in person, but still millions of people go every year to see the Mona Lisa in person. I mean, there's just something about seeing the real thing.
Well, as a member of the Fashionette panel, one of the best things was receiving one of these suitcases. And on the front says Hudson's Fashionettes, and this is what we would carry to the fittings and to the fashion shows. Our black pumps were the #1 thing you had to bring. I have treasured this thing. I even have purses that are like imitations of it and stuff. But no, this means so much. It really was. The whole experience was life-changing.
Business is booming, at least for now. City sidewalks, busy sidewalks. And in the air, there's a feeling of Christmas. Gary Curtis reporting from downtown Detroit.
Christmas time, I can not forget parents taking me up to the 12th floor, and the door opens up and there's a merry-go-round going around because they had a little Ferris wheel and a merry-go-round for kids. The smell of cotton candy and popcorn, and then see that the Santa there, and then the huge toy display and everything. It was like walking into a fair.
If you were a kid during the Hudson's heyday, it's hard to overstate the wonder of walking through those doors in the holiday season.
Once you came into the store, you could, of course, take an express elevator to the 12th floor, where, Santa Claus was, the enchanted forest, which you went through on your way to see Santa, and, of course, the auditorium show, which changed themes each year as well. And Hudson's was also one of the first stores to offer you a choice of Santa. Do you want a Caucasian Santa? Do you want a Hispanic Santa? Do you want an African American Santa? So they covered their bases there for families.
A young woman named Christmas Carol guided families through Santa's magic forest. She was a character dreamed up by a teenager.
Christmas Carol was a young lady by the name of Maureen Bailey. She went to Shrine High School in Royal Oak. She was destined for a film and theater career, and she developed the idea that Santa should have a helper. She asked her parents, and she asked the principal and teachers at the school, I have this idea, and I think I could go down to Hudson's and promote it, that there should be a Christmas Carol, and she should help Santa. Her parents in the school said, okay, keep your grades up, and you can do it. So that she went downtown on her own and met the head of their advertising department and display, promotions and all that sort of thing. And they loved the idea, and they hired her on the spot to do it. Her job was to greet the kids and then take them to Santa. Of course, she was in the parade. Whenever a kid would go see Santa at Hudson's downtown, they would get a gift. And that gift was usually a coloring book or a little storybook. And so they had different stories created about Christmas Carol. Christmas Carol and the surprise that came in the mail, or Christmas Carol's big Christmas coloring book. Can you imagine a kid going to an executive today and being taken seriously?
Hudson set up a men's-only shop where husbands and sons could choose from a curated gift selection with the help of personal shoppers. And there was a special shopping experience for kids, too, a place that's almost mystical in the memories of adults today.
At Christmas time, they had what was called the children's only shop. The doorway was small, so only a kid could get in. But once they got in, there were salespeople in there that were trained to handle kids, and they could buy pencils, pens as gifts for their family. Nothing was over $3, but most of it was change, 25 cents, 15 cents. It was a way that these kids felt self-important, that they were participating in the traditional Christmas gift giving that way.
One of the things that people always looked forward to were the animated windows on Woodward, because all of the windows on Woodward Avenue had an animated theme, and each year it was a different theme that was carried out throughout the store and on shopping bags, things like that.
One year they did the whole story of Christmas in the windows. Even museum directors from New York came to see, because the displays, they said, were museum quality artwork.
Some of those original Hudson's animated Christmas decorations survived and can still be seen every year around the holidays.
After Hudson's closed downtown, they were connected with the Southland Mall in Taylor, and unsure exactly how it happened, but somebody made a connection, and so some of the pieces were then donated to this already existing event of Santa's Magic Forest.
Santa's Magic Forest is a charity-run organization. It's essentially Downriver's best Christmas display. It was housed in Heritage Park, which is the largest park in Taylor and one of the largest parks in the Downriver area. And it drew young families with young children to see a forest full of beautiful Christmas displays, many of which went back decades and decades.
Right now we're sitting in a somewhat empty gym, but we transform it into a really magical experience, and you get the oohs and the ahs. And you see pieces that for a lot of people they haven't seen in a long time. So it's a very unique way to spend some family time together during the holidays.
The money raised from admissions goes to Fish and Loaves, Michigan's biggest client choice food pantry. They distribute 3 million pounds of food each year to help families in need.
Santa's Magic Forest is our largest fundraiser for the pantry. Annually, we try to raise about $40,000 a year, and that helps purchase food for the pantry. It helps fund us for months. I would say the difference with the Hudson's display is it's the animatronics that you just don't see anymore. It might seem like a slight movement, but when you put the whole display together and every animatronic is contributing in a different way, it really is alive, and it's amazing to see. I mean, we have elves who are painting masterpieces. We have beavers who are chopping wood. Like, there's some whimsicalness to it that it really adds just a sense of magic to the event. Children absolutely love it. When they walk in, it just always amazes me, their surprise and amazement to walk into a totally transformed space and to honestly see things that they probably haven't seen before. These animatronics, you don't get to see them very often. So the kids love it, and of course to spend time with Santa and the Grinch.
I think without a doubt there's a lot of nostalgia in there, because I think that the older you are, the more you can relate to this type of display. You know, there's a lot of woodwork in these displays. You know, there's not computer chips in them, you know, those kind of things. This is all, most of these that move are somewhat electronic. That's why it's so important to get sources of electricity on these sites where they can power all this stuff up. I think the older that you are, I think the more you appreciate these kind of throwbacks, because you just don't see them anymore today. You know, and I think what people remember from the old downtown J.L. Hudson's, it kind of stays with you forever.
Third floor of Hudson's was the creative person's mecca. All things handmade, craft projects, artwork, that sort of thing, and that's what I was into. I can honestly say that middle school experience, going to Hudson's on the third floor, probably solidified my desire to become a seamstress.
Hudson's, synonymous with the city of Detroit for so long. The entanglement was accomplished through a mix of masterful marketing and deep, meaningful involvement with its hometown from the beginning. The company had a knack for community building through creating spectacles.
The first event that I could really think that really took off for them was what was called the world's largest flag.
That was a tradition that began in 1923 for Armistice Day.
Hudson's world's largest flag weighed more than 600 pounds and was unfurled on Flag Days. It traveled to ceremonial events in Washington, D.C. and New York City.
By the time World War II was over, the flag was kind of old, so they even made a bigger flag. And it was manufactured and it was displayed again on Flag Day.
The new super-sized world's largest flag covered 10 stories of the Hudson's building, and each star was 8 feet tall. But that flag needed mending. and amending by 1960 when Alaska and Hawaii joined the Union.
It took almost 80 men to unfurl the flag on the Woodward Avenue frontage of the downtown store. This continued up until the bicentennial. That was the last year, 1976, that the flag was unfurled. The flag was becoming fragile by that time, and so it went into storage. It was donated to the Smithsonian, but the Smithsonian really didn't know how to display it because it was so huge. So the Smithsonian then donated it to a flag conservator out west. They kept it, and of course, as the years went on, it became even more fragile. And in 1990, the company gave them permission to properly dispose of the flag.
When I started writing about Hudson's and I started researching, what struck me most of all were these events that Hudson's had to bring people to the store. Flower shows. They even had like a sewing festival, pet festival. They had cat shows, dog shows at Hudson's, all these different things, car shows.
The 12th floor auditorium turned into a fantasy showroom floor, an art gallery, a bountiful garden, an exotic pantry filled with international delicacies, anything and everything to attract shoppers outside of the holiday season. And what draws a crowd better than the stars?
But when I was in Detroit, I had shoplifted at J.L. Hudson, which is the biggest department store in Detroit. Why I'm revealing this, I don't know.
Because I'm your friendly doctor type. You tell me
Well, I'd
anything.
only done it because it was. I actually wanted to see what it was like. You know, I wanted to see what the experience was like because I didn't try to do a slick job. I did a very bungled job so that I would get apprehended. And as a matter of fact, I did. And the woman said, it was wintertime and she had on a light topper, so I knew that she was not a true shopper. And she said, walk this way, keep smiling, no one is going to embarrass you. Keep walking this way, keep smiling, no one is going to embarrass you. Keep smiling, keep walking this way, no one's going to embarrass you. Anyway, they did embarrass me, and I gave up the item that I had shoplifted, and then I smiled and laughed and horsed around and said, well, and they knew me, and then they realized that I was an actress, a local actress, and I said I wanted to see what it felt like to be apprehended. And then, but they still put my name down on the card and put it in a file, you know, and I was just mortified. But then years later, after I got on Laugh-In, I did a record signing party in the record department. And in my mind was always the fact that downstairs in the security department was my name on file.
Shoplifter, come on,
Hudson's was one of the first places that celebrities, whether you were an author, a radio personality, later on a television or movie personality, you would come to the store to make a personal appearance, sign books, talk about the movie. Probably one of the bigger things was Gloria Swanson came out with a whole line of dresses right after she appeared in Sunset Boulevard.
Whether selling wares or just signing autographs, shoppers delighted in getting a glimpse of Hollywood in the heart of Detroit. Starting in 1959, the cities of Detroit and Windsor celebrated cross-border friendship with the International Freedom Festival. And after the sun set behind the Ambassador Bridge, Hudson sponsored the fireworks. It was such a success, the next year's fireworks show was nearly double the duration, a full 45 minutes long. The summertime tradition continued for decades. Every year, the Hudson's fireworks brought hundreds of thousands of people to the riverfront to spend an evening oohing and ahhing together. But Hudson's most sentimental and enduring event was, of course, the Thanksgiving parade. It was Hudson's display manager Charles Windell's big idea to send Santa Claus down Woodward Avenue for the first time in 1924, the same year Macy's parade started in New York City.
It was known as a children's toy parade, so the floats were to look like toys, and there were clowns and things like that too.
At the end of the parade, Santa stepped from the sleigh onto the Hudson's marquee to accept the key to the city and get ready to hear the Christmas wishes of all the boys and girls whose parents would bring them to see him at Hudson's.
Hudson's footed the bill for the whole thing. Got the floats, the big heads from Italy. It was their staffers that were the clowns, and once they did the first one, they did the next year, and it was going to be bigger and better until it developed into a really big operation. They had this display department that would help with the building of the floats and the styling of it. Into the 50s, 60s, and 70s, they started to theme the parade. So one year it might be a fairy tale theme that had Hans Christian Andersen fairy tales. Still has the doodlebug and all that and the bands, but there would be a theme to it. Space, in the 60s, when space exploration was just a big topic, especially for boys, that would have a space age theme. But that would be tied to space age windows in the downtown store. And this theming of it could occur because they had these wonderful display artists and carpenters that were really craftsmen.
Hudson stopped sponsoring the parade in the early 80s, but Santa still glides down Woodward every Thanksgiving morning, guided by Rudolph and the spirit of tradition that started by Hudson's more than 100 years ago.
Back around 67, 68, I had the chance to be in the Thanksgiving Day parade. It was the Hudson's parade back then. And I was accompanying a flower float as a pansy. Brown jumpsuit, big paper mache, 6-foot wide flower head. I had my sunglasses on because I put them on, it was sunny, and I knew I wasn't going to be able to reach around to be able to switch glasses if I needed to. So by the time we got down to the end of the parade in front of the store, it was raining. And Mike Douglas, the talk show host, one of the talk show hosts at that time, made a comment about, oh, there's an optimistic pansy, he's got his sunglasses on. So at least I got national recognition.
Doors closed to shoppers in 1983, but they stayed open for more than 1,000 corporate employees who still worked inside. By 1987, most of those people moved to Dayton's Minneapolis headquarters or Hudson's Northland, and only a few maintenance staff still worked there when Hudson sold the building in 1990. By the mid-90s, exactly who owned the Hudson's building was in dispute, but it was definitely being ravaged by vandals and scrappers who stripped it of its metals and other material. Safety concerns grew, and various schemes to repurpose the property all fell through. Unpaid tax bills allowed the state of Michigan to seize the property and transfer it into Detroit's Downtown Development Authority.
I have mixed feelings because it's a neat building. I have personal memories of it as well, but I think we need to stop living in the past and get on with things and really make the city as vibrant as we can.
The mayor says he's willing to meet with the group trying to save the Hudson's building, but his mind is made up.
I would like very much to see the Hudson building come down and have adequate space for retail, new office space, retail, shopping, and the like.
Judge Sharon Tevis Finch told a packed courtroom that morally she would hate to see such a crown jewel in the city skyline demolished. She says she, along with other longtime Detroiters, have years of memories of the building that are hard to forget. But legally, she says the DDA has followed the law in their paperwork to use city money to start the demolition.
It's a good decision.
Why?
The demolition will go forward.
And so it was set. The beloved big store would come down on October 24th, 1998 at exactly 5:45 p.m., Hudson's usual closing time.
What we're going to hear are the sirens that give an all clear to a signal to the police force and make sure everybody is off the ground level to prepare everybody up here. And of course, the mayor is up on this level of the garage with what is in essence a ceremonial plunger. He will indeed push the plunger, but simultaneous to that, there is a crew trailer down at the ground level, Emery and Carmen, that has the officials in it that will actually push the buttons. They have backup buttons, much like the fireworks here at 4th of July time. In case the computerized buttons don't work, they can push them manually. And they have set in that building at different levels, the first and the second basement level. I'm told about the fifth 5th floor, the 16th floor, and the 22nd floor, strategically placed 2,900 pounds of explosives so that the building will implode, one end falling toward the other, and by its very sheer weight pulling it down, they will then blow the basement, all of that occurring within 8 seconds.
We will, go ahead, Carmen.
I was just going to ask Chuck, we couldn't have better weather for this, could we? Could we have asked for better weather, Chuck?
Oh, you're not kidding. We have exactly the kind of weather they would have wanted. No rain. The wind, of course, blowing in a direction toward this rooftop, but that's not the concern that they have.
We are going to see, Chuck, a series of flashes starting at the southwest corner, which will be visible for about 9.6 seconds. So let's listen now.
Everybody, here we go. It's 10, 9, 8, 7, 6.
Dennis.
Fire.
Emery, Carmen, can you hear me?
We hear you, Chuck.
You can actually see from our camera's vantage point here this dust cloud actually streaming across the street. I've never seen anything like this before. It looks like a snowstorm coming right at us. Can you see that across that parking deck?
We see it. It's almost like a volcanic dust.
It really is, and it is literally coming right at people on this rooftop. They've now just realized that this is moving in our direction. They are heading for the vestibules and the elevator. Unfortunately, the elevator isn't going to help. This is going to be like sheer darkness in just minutes. I'm literally across the street from this cloud, which is now approaching us, and so much like hunkering down in a bunker, I'm going to get down at a certain level and put on my mask.
Before we lose contact with you, Chuck, based on what we can see here, it appears that it was a success. We don't see anything that would indicate that there were any problems at all. Can you determine that? Are you in the cloud?
Well, I'm in the cloud right now, Emery. As a matter of fact, I could tell as it was going down, all I saw the very last thing was that flagpole, which I was surprised they even left standing, but I saw that come down, so I would assume, being the very top of the building, that it is indeed down.
We have many camera angles to show you. We're going to replay this event. Carmen, I don't know about you, but sitting here, I got goosebumps watching this from here. It was terribly exciting from here in the studio. We can only imagine what it was like out there.
Of course, we all ducked when the huge dust cloud appeared. But yeah, it was very sad, very sad. It was like losing a friend.
I think that building would be very popular today. It could have offices, apartments, stores, anything you want in there, because it was basically open floors and a really strong structure, beautiful exterior. So it's a little bit of a crime against art, I would say, that things happen that way.
Yeah, we did watch the implosion of the store on TV, and it was a little bit nostalgic because it really was an end of an era. That's the store where I started my career and learned to be a people person. At one point, I had a brick from the rubble. I'm not sure where it has ended up these days, but it was sad to see that happen because there was a lot of good times, a lot of good things in that store.
When the building came down, it was almost a little bit of sadness because of all the happy memories that I had going there with my grandmother. But change is always necessary.
Okay, I've seen the new Hudson's building, and I've looked at it as it progressed, and I'm in all of it, the design. But it's got Hudson space, so it's got good bones.
Gradually, you could see the deterioration of the downtown store. People just weren't going downtown anymore. And, it was in the cards, it was going to happen, but it was really sad to see that slow deterioration of this magnificent store. And when it was when it closed, that was awful, and I could not watch the implosion. That was just.
I watched it once. I can't watch it.
No, it was impossible to watch that implosion. I mean, I've glimpsed pictures, but I couldn't watch it. It was too sad.
Three main driving factors or principles that really guided the design of the project. The first was filling that void that was left when the Hudson's building was imploded in 1998. Both the literal void in the urban fabric, but to some extent the sort of emotional void that existed after that building was gone. The second was really making sure that what was put back there was providing something for everyone. So it's not just an office building, it's not just a residential building, but it's office plus events, plus retail, plus hotel, plus residences, plus this amazing public space in Nick Gilbert Way. And then the third thing was making something that's iconic. And certainly architecturally, I think it's a very stunning building. But iconic for us also meant the experiences that people had here. And one of the big moves that we made was, rather than taking the whole site and just sort of extruding it up the way that the old department store was, we split it into two buildings. So you have an office building and a tower. What that did was create this great public space in the middle, and that becomes sort of the civic heart of the project. As we're looking at the detailing, really wanted it to resonate with the city and the skyline as it exists. We have an amazing architectural collection of buildings here in downtown Detroit, and so it didn't want to feel like a sort of foreign object. It's certainly a contemporary project, very forward-looking, but also sort of referencing the past in some of the materials, the glazed terracotta, the metal and sort of decoration on the exterior of the office building. Some of those sort of harken back to some of the iconic projects of the city.
The new Hudson's is actually two buildings side by side. The shorter block building has street-level retail shops. On the second and third floors is the Department by Hudson's, space to host all sorts of events. And on top of that, there are 7 floors of office space. The tall tower next door will be the Detroit Edition Hotel, with condominium residents on the top floors, and in between the two buildings, Nick Gilbert Way, an outdoor corridor for the community to enjoy. That's the overview. Now let's dig into the details, starting with the department. Yes, named for the famed Hudson's department store.
So the department is a collection of event venues designed to offer incredible flexibility for guests, for visitors, for locals. We want the ability to host a wide range of events, size-wise, from 2 people to 2,000. We hope that when guests arrive, they feel some of the nostalgia of the big store, of what Hudson's was in its heyday. The incredible spaces, the way we've named them, the look, the design, the feel is intended to bring back a little bit of the memory and the experience that generations before us had when they shopped here. You would come with your family, you would come for a special occasion, and you would experience things like the Maurice salad or the Hudson's punch. We offer our take on those iconic dishes and iconic drinks that we can weave into your experience for your event and your guests. The room names that we came up with were intended to revitalize and sort of reuse names that were parts of the department store from its heyday. Specifically things like the Bear. Hudson's was known in its windows during the holiday season for these massive teddy bears. We have a space called the Flag Room that pays homage to the massive flag, 3,700 square foot flag that adorned the exterior of the building along Woodward Avenue. So the idea is experience what was here, but make it new, fresh, and modern. When you host an event here, it doesn't feel like a windowless conference center. We built it with natural light so that it feels like you're immersed in the city. And by doing that, not only does it feel good as a guest, but you get to see the incredible architecture, the amazing skyline of this city and how iconic it is. When you design a space with hard surfaces, you typically get a lot of audio and sound bounce. By designing it the way we did, with acoustic properties that allow that sound to be absorbed, you can have, and we've had 2,000 people in this space, and we can have an intimate conversation without hearing anyone else. And I think that's truly special. A decade worth of work in the making, to see it come to life is a testament to the hard work of the incredible teams that we brought together to execute on this project. To see it, an old space, a vacant parking garage for so many years, now with new life, new breath, and people walking in and out of the space and experiencing it every day is so special.
Oh, yeah. I almost toppled. My old age toppling. It's really exciting because we weren't expecting this to happen in our lifetime.
With each memory, the past builds a bridge to the future, and these stories reflect where we are today. They've come back and are holding on to something. Like this place still holds something for them too.
To me, it's the kind of the spirit of what Detroit is.
We went all the time. I mean, that's what you did on Saturday. You go to Hudson's and you go shopping. It starts with my mother, who came from the farm in northern Michigan. The minute they got off the train, they started shopping in 5 minutes. They wanted to look like women of the world, sophisticated women of the city. Mary and I had the same memory of when we were maybe 2 years old. I was so small, I had to reach up to hold my mother's finger. She would go to the third floor and go fabric shopping for our little dresses. Oh, when we were little. Oh, yeah. I forgot to say it. Yeah. We were little. We went to the parade every year.
Every year,
Absolutely. It was marvelous. When we were 15, 1945, we thought, well, it's time for us to work. So we went down to Hudson's, and I remember the woman said, wait a minute, we're having a fashion show. First year anniversary of 17 magazine, and I think you would be good for the fashion show because we're twins, and we could show 2 different versions of the same outfit. Well, of course, we were so awkward.
This is our first time ever in high heels.
And they taught us how to walk, and the models were so kind to us. Before 17 magazine, there weren't teenagers. You were a kid and then you were an adult. There wasn't that transition. So, we were part of the first anniversary of the magazine that started the teenager. And we made enough money so that we didn't have to get regular, boring jobs.
Does Hudson's hold a greater significance for you because you met your husband there?
Probably one of the most significant moments of my life. I went down on a Saturday to look for a coat. This guy comes up and starts talking to me, and I'm, who is this getting fresh? I thought he was picking me up. And it turns out that he was one of the best friends of a guy that Mildred was dating. And he thought I was Mildred. So he was talking to me as if he knew me. We got married in September of the following year, 1956. And he got his master's at Cranbrook.
And my husband was teaching at Cranbrook.
Yeah. We would come back with the kids.
Watching the parade. It was really thrilling to carry on the tradition. It was like reliving it,
When Andrew was maybe smaller than this, she was crawling around on the floor at Hudson's under one of the trees, and she picked this tinsel up and she put it on the tree. Wow.
And it's been on every single tree all that time.
Yeah.
I can't watch the implosion. I just can't do it. It's too hard. I saw it once. Once is enough.
It really hurt. It was a hurt feeling. And
when you saw that. But that was our life. Now people have to build their own memories and their own traditions. You know, we can look back with nostalgia and fondness, but the new generation is going to make their own.
Do you know what Daddy does for a living?
Yes.
Tell him.
My daddy built buildings and work in construction.
We started construction in 2017. We had to not only demolish the parking structure that the city had built in 2001, but we had to build what we call deep foundations to accommodate, most importantly, the 685-foot tall tower. When we started drilling down into the bedrock for that, we continually ran into the foundations from the old Hudson's department store. And so we would, spend 2 or 3 days drilling in a certain location, only to eventually hit an old foundation and have to pull up the drilling rig, move over, try drilling again. Hudson's Detroit in total is almost 1.5 million square feet of construction, just under 600,000 square feet of space of the building we're sitting in right now, the block building. The tower building is over 650,000 square feet. And then we have 2 levels of underground parking that's over 200,000 square feet that'll accommodate over 600 vehicles, with parking stackers, automated parking system in that underground parking, 227 hotel rooms, 96 condos, 400,000 square feet of office, 56,000 square feet of event and meeting room space, 25,000 square feet of retail, and then the Nick Gilbert Way outdoor space between the 2 buildings as well. The flagship tenant, the main tenant for the building, is General Motors, is moving their world headquarters to this building. They're going to occupy 4 floors. We also have Rock and the Gilbert family office as well. Venn Johnson Law Firm and Accenture have all announced their commitments to this building and are going to be occupying in early 2026. Lots of natural light. So where we're sitting right now is a 7-story atrium, glass ceiling up above. It was designed by shop architects, and the atrium itself is actually a nod to the 1954 Chevrolet Corvette headlight. We have real trees that were grown down in Florida and brought up here earlier this year. We had to remove some glass panels on the outside of the building and bring those trees in, let them acclimate for a few months, and then they were planted late summer. We have mirrors that are located throughout the space that are really sort of tilted up towards the sky. So if you're viewing the atrium space from we're on the 5th floor now. If you're on floors 6 through 11 and look down, you will get the reflection of the natural light coming in through the atrium off the mirrors that are located throughout the landscape beds in this space. And you have access to a really beautiful fitness center with change rooms. There's a pickleball court with some lounge seating around it, a library study area that has a nice TV and some soft seating, a really great spot to go hang out with a kitchen attached to that. And then we have a multi-sports simulator that I think you can play up to 9 or 10 sports on that. So all of that available to everyone who works in this building. The hotel, located just south of the building we're sitting in now, Michigan's 2nd tallest building, 685 feet tall. The building's actually made up of 2 different uses. There's a hotel from the ground floor up until the 23rd floor, and then residential condos above that 25th floor through the 45th floor. Hotel is an Addition, which is a 5-star brand from the Marriott flag. And it's their first hotel in the Midwest, and it will be one of their largest in the world. 227 hotel rooms, multiple food and beverage outlets in there, bars, restaurants, as well as some event and meeting space. There's also a really beautiful spa being built on the 10th and 11th floor there. So even if you're not coming to stay with Addition overnight, the spa is available to anyone to book time in there and see that space and experience great spa treatments.
Nick Gilbert Way is a way. It's a space between the Hudson's office building and the tower in the heart of downtown Detroit, just off of Woodward Avenue and Farmer. Nick Gilbert Way is a public place for the community. It's somewhere where you can come and grab a coffee from en Detroit, whether you're just downtown visiting or you're living or working in one of our buildings. It's a place for you to come and be able to engage in different type of programming, activities, events, and a place for small businesses to be able to participate in this wonderful new development. This space will be changing seasonally to give people different experiences at different times of the year to continue to draw them back. So you'll see different things in the winter than you will in the summer. Nick Gilbert Way is named after Nick Gilbert, Dan and Jennifer Gilbert's son, who passed away from NF. I had the honor of being able to work with Nick on a lot of these fun initiatives, and I know that this is a space he would have really loved, a place for the community, a place to be able to engage with other people, and we're really happy that we were able to name this space after him. So we have some amazing retailers here at Hudson's. Aloe was our very first retailer that opened here, and is a great place to be able to come and get some workout and yoga clothing. We also have Tecovas, which is a Western wear store that is a great place to be able to come shop, to grab a gift for someone. And we're really excited to have them within the Hudson's development. We have a very large bear that we're installing. The bear is so iconic to the Hudson's site and so many memories that people have had. And we thought it was really important to bring that tradition back. And so we actually are launching a bear for the holiday season, and we'll be doing that every holiday season with a different look and feel for the bear. There'll be different programming opportunities. It'll be a collectible item that people can purchase, and something that's really special is that this bear is also an opportunity to be able to give back, and so proceeds for the purchase of the bear will be going this year to NFX, but many different charities, hopefully, throughout the years.
So guys, the plan for today is that we need to make it to...
He's building something lasting, not just a structure, but the way he shows up day after day. He may not realize it now, but for her, he's the blueprint. With each memory, the past builds a bridge to the future, and these stories reflect where we are today.
My daddy build buildings, and him is a boss.
It means the world to know that my daughter knows that I have a significant impact on the second tallest building here in Michigan. I love the city of Detroit. Everything that I do, it all relates to Detroit. Born and raised Detroiter, product of Detroit, went to Renaissance High School. My mom, my grandmother, my aunties, they frequently visit the original Hudson's building. They told me oftentimes how they stayed there for hours, going into all the different department stores within the Hudson.
Thousands of people gather all over the city to watch this historic moment, really. Over 100 years that building has stood. A lot of people have unbelievable memories from there.
My mom, she told me how, heartbroken she was about the entire implosion.
You're in the red. Everybody, here we go. Fire!
Just seeing such an iconic landmark here in Detroit get demolished, and just in its former glory, nothing standing in its place.
The biggest building demolition in Detroit history happened. The Hudson building along Woodward came crashing to the ground.
All that sits is really still an empty slab of concrete. Something new could be on its way soon, and it's big.
When I first heard about it early on, I made it my goal to become part of this project, just to help in the revitalization of this site. Starting a new, project, it lit a new fire within me, and it made me more appreciative of my life. Amazing.
Look, see the same all smiles.
Yeah, all smiles. My wife is great. She's my #1 supporter, my #1 fan. I feel like God really prepared me, for this moment. Having my daughter during the pandemic, I mean, you got a new person that's dependent on you, you know, so the stakes are always higher. To know that I'm creating a legacy for my daughter, I mean, it's definitely inspiring to me. Everything that I do goes to my daughter.
You recognize that building?
Yes.
What building is that?
Daddy's. I feel proud when I see my daddy's building.
Overall, it'll be a sense of pride for her just to educate her kids and their kids. Her father has had a significant impact on the city of Detroit.
Backstory Hudson's Detroit is presented by the Somerset Collection. Feel the holiday magic. Production support, Reflection Series, and additional videography and photography courtesy of Bedrock. Experience the new Hudson's Detroit and the upcoming Reflection Series celebrating the people, places, and pulse of our city, brought to life by Bedrock by visiting hudsons-detroit.com/reflections. Our thanks to the Detroit Historical Society for the use of their photographs and other archival materials. To see original Hudson's artifacts in person, visit the Hudson's Holiday Exhibit at the Detroit Historical Museum now through January 5th.
Well, I do remember my grandmother taking me to Hudson's, and there's probably a Santa Claus visit or two in there. I remember the flag, of course, on Thanksgiving. I mean, the energy was just, I mean, I was a little kid, of course, but the energy was very, very high. Like the hustle and bustle of a city, and then this being the central location of that city or of that downtown, you could feel it. And that's what we're going to try to recreate, the feeling and the experience down here. I think I watched it on television, but that was a sad day. You saw the dust come up. I mean, think about that. Decades of activity and human enjoyment taken away in one swipe. So it's taken a little bit longer than that to build it back, but we're going to bring it back, and I think everybody's going to be excited. We first started coming down in the summer 2010, so that's 15 years ago. I would say from the time we got down here, we were looking at it because it was an eyesore. It was being used as an old parking lot underground at the time, and they had some steel beams still coming out of the ground that weren't too attractive, so you couldn't help notice it. So at some point, we looked at that and said, we got to do something here. And plus it's on retail holy ground. I mean, it was kind of like a cemetery almost, like a business cemetery. It's pretty sad when this building was such a heartbeat of energy and experience and had so many memories for so many people, and to see it sitting there empty like that, it was sad. Well, I think when you look at this site, the first thing you got to do is pay homage to the past, because it's such an important site in Detroit and in the minds and hearts of so many Detroiters and Metro Detroiters for generations. So how can you pay respect to the past? Certainly keeping the Hudson's name as part of it, because I think that's the name everybody remembers, and we didn't want to change that, and it's a great name. It's a memorable name. I don't need my name on buildings and things. I think it represents happy times when people think about Detroit. When you ask, what did you do during the holidays? Well, I went downtown, I went to Hudson's, I went and shopped on the Woodward blocks. So we're going to bring our new twist to it, but it'll be very similar in some ways. I mean, there were several iterations, as there usually is in a project this size, but it was always a multi-use kind of approach. So we ended up with great event space, great retail, great office. We have a great hotel going in, some condos on top. It should be a great place for Detroiters to come just hang out and enjoy it and be entertained and get an experience. The exterior came out really well. We went through a lot of iterations, but I really like the exterior, and I like the way it looks at night when it's lit up, which we try to do. We're going to keep it lit at night. So Nick Gilbert Way is in honor of my son, who we lost 2.5 years ago. It's a public plaza between the two buildings of Hudson's. We're excited to bring a lot of vendors to it and a lot of action and activity to it. That's going to be the whole design of these several blocks of Woodward, not just here. I mean, going north, going south to Campus Martius and Cadillac Square. It's going to be a great time to shop downtown again. We expect it to be the #1 place to shop for the holidays in Metro Detroit. There's nowhere else you can go that's going to be like downtown, as it should be. So it's going to have a lot of economic activity and a lot of retail activity, and a lot of restaurants will be full. And I think there's a lot of jobs being created because of that. A lot more people are living down here. I think a lot of people will be bringing their relatives back from other cities, hopefully during the holidays, and get a flavor of it. Maybe that draws some people moving here again, which is starting to happen already. If you haven't been downtown Detroit in the last few years, you really don't want to miss it, because it's going to be something you haven't experienced before.
150 years ago, J.L. Hudson began building something Michiganders had never experienced before. What started as a small haberdashery grew into the world's tallest department store, a place to shop, yes, but also to work, to discover, to commune, to create memories so vivid they still survive decades after the hollowed bricks and mortar disappeared.
Well, this is the main event, right? Everything else we've done up until this point was the undercard. So this is the main event. These are the buildings that we want people to look at and give them hope for the future. Yeah, it honors the past, but hopefully it gives them hope for the future, and look up and say, we can get things done. We can get big things done here. So hopefully it prompts other things that are big.
Once again, there is wonder and magic from Woodward to Farmer, Grand River to Gratiot.